Hello, everyone. Inside today's Locked On Canadians, we have your weekend update. We have games, we have signings, and then it is 3 up and 3 down.
Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 815 of Locked On Canadians. As always, thank you for making us your first listen of the day every day, because we are part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where you get your team every day. Thank you for subscribing wherever you get your daily podcast. And if you are watching on YouTube, thank you so much. I am one of your hosts. I am Scott Mettle, and I'm joined, as always, by my co-host, the active stick, Laura Saba. And Laura, it was I don't want to say busy weekend, but it had plenty of news basically from Friday onwards in through the weekend for the Montreal Canadiens and all parties around their team at this point.
I just really want to quickly say sorry to Scott and to the listeners, because we were supposed to do a Friday mailbag, but my computer completely died, died. So we are going to do the mailbag at some point this week. But for me, I think one of the things was that every time we post an episode, that is when the Canadiens decide that they're going to announce news. And to me, a goalie signing is pretty exciting news, even if it's an entry-level goalie signing, and even if it is going to be a while before we know what we've got in the prospect. But I'm very, very excited. Are we going with Gnome for his nickname? Is that
No, the gnome is Frederick D. Yes, over there.
Yeah.
I don't know what Dobish's nickname actually is, but
Dobby? I feel like there's already another Dobby.
Yeah, and I'd rather not give him a Harry Potter nickname for a number of different reasons here. Like, we could call him Doughboy, but I feel like that seems like slightly offensive. And I guess we're gonna lead with that. Is that the Canadiens signed Jakob Dobes to a 2-year entry-level contract. That starts, I believe, next season. And he will report to the Laval Rocket for the remainder of this season. They have 5 or 6 games left. He's basically going the Jaden Struble route right now, in that, I'm taking a look here once the AHL site loads. The Rocket have currently 5 games remaining in their season, sitting in 5th place in the AHL North Division right now. He's a big help because Kevin Poulain's been injured for parts of this year, and Caden Primo has started 24 of the last 27 games for the Rocket, which is an insane amount of playing time. He's played well, but giving him some extra help is probably not the worst thing in the world. I got to say, I'm excited to see what this kid does, because he's big. He's 21 years old. He turns 22 on May 27th. 6'4", 201 pounds, played 2 years at Ohio State after coming out of the USHL and the NAHL, which is very weird path, because he played a lot of his early career in the Czech Republic. He's a Czech goaltender, and then he came over to play in the U.S. junior system all the way up into the NCAA. He finished last year with a 21-16-3 record, .918 save percentage, and 3 shutouts. His team is the one that dismantled Sean Farrell's team in the NCAA Frozen Four. I'm excited to see what the Canadiens have here, because the goalie pipeline now is Allen signed next year. Montembeault is signed next year. Primo is signed next year. Verbatic is up for an entry-level contract, and now they have Jakub Dobes as well. It's 6 goalies. That means 2 per level in a perfect world, but things are going to move around here. I'm very curious to see how things go.
I think for me, something that keeps coming up now with the Farrell signing, the Struble signing, and now with Dobes signing, is a lot of people don't necessarily have a lot of faith in the NCAA system. Also, the nature of the NCAA system means that usually when they sign the contract, they have to sign an additional different contract in order to be to agree to go to Laval, right? Because they don't have to go through the AHL route or whatever it is. So It's often it comes with question marks, and for me, in particular, when it comes to goalies, like you said, I'm excited about his size. I think definitely we will reach out to our friend Dylan, the goalie coach, literally a goalie coach, to talk to us about his athleticism, his tracking, his reaction. I'm very, very excited to see that. I think his numbers have been good, and from the beginning, we've had Patrick Bexell on like from early days in our show, and we talked about this particular goaltender. And I know over the course of this past season, in particular, a lot of our listeners have actually asked us, like, what are your thoughts on Jakob Dobes? So I'm excited to have an expert come and tell us, but also goalies take time. You mentioned his age. He's pretty young. Some of them, you right away, they can be stellar, and then it's a flash in the pan. And then by the time they're like 23, 24, it's all gone. Caden Primo came with a lot of pedigree and promise, but for whatever reason in the NHL, his game is not adjusting, like, right? And his game is like very, very it's very good for all the levels that he's played thus far until the NHL level. Like, he's not able to make that next level. So to me, like, how a goalie looks now is part of it. His potential is based on whether or not he's able to adapt and adjust. And like I said, sometimes there's a goalie, like, from the beginning, he's going to be amazing. And then he is, and he has an amazing career over time. And sometimes it's just like a huge big question mark. So I think for Montreal, we are very excited about this in particular because we know that by the time the forwards and the defensemen are ready to be good, we need a solid goaltender in that net. So I think, I don't want to, I made a joke about like, let's rest the, entire hopes of the franchise on this one guy now. But I think the Canadians need to figure out their goaltending sooner rather than later. So to me, this is a great sign that they're taking steps to see what they have in the pipeline. And I think they won't hesitate to trade Jake Allen if there's going to be a good return for him. And I also think they won't hesitate to trade Caden Primo. I think they'd like to hold on to Samuel Montembeault at least for another year. But I think that if somebody comes calling for Caden Primo, like, this signing makes me think that it's like, all right, they're ready to kind of, close the door on that chapter if Caden Primo doesn't show that he's the goaltender of the future very soon.
I don't think Primo is going anywhere just because they signed him to a 3-year deal. I think they want to see what he's got. And he, again, now that he's healthy and the Rocket are healthy and have a decent team in front of him, is that they're starting to hit their stride there. And in this year, he's got a .906 save percentage, 16-14-6 with 2 shutouts. The Rocket have been a team that struggled badly early on. And I think this is them trying to find out, what do they have, like you said, in the system for goaltender. Samuel Montembeault seems to be coming along quite nicely, but at the same time, we don't know what this is. Probably what Samuel Montembeault is, a very good, tandem goalie right now. Can they find a starter? And I think they see some of that in Dobes with his size and athleticism at Ohio State. And with 5 games left, if the Rocket, end up being eliminated or end up falling out of that playoff spot there, he's probably going to get those starts down the stretch. And I'm going to say, okay, what do we have? He's going to compete for that next year, and so will Verbatic. There's a lot going on with this team right now that they're still in flux. They're still rebuilding. As fun as the growth has been, they're still a team in rebuilding mode, and that means lots of prospects and a lot of, we're going to find out whether this works or not. And we were going to talk about the Carolina game. Not much to say. Samuel Montembeault deserves so much better. We'll talk a little bit about, the tank and everything, but it is Monday. That means it is time for 3 Up and 3 Down, where we talk about our risers and fallers of the week, and the down section is coming up next. But first, for a championship team, it's all about making sure every player is a perfect fit. It's the same when it comes to your vehicle. Every part needs to fit just right. So the next time you need parts and accessories, head to eBay Motors. With eBay Guaranteed Fit, you can be sure every part you need fits right the first time around. Just add your ride to My Garage and look for the green check to know the part will fit or your money back. Because just like in sports, confidence is the name of the game when you shop with eBay Motors. And with over 122 million parts to choose from, you'll be right back in the game in no time. After all, it's easy to bring home a win when the right parts are guaranteed. Get the right parts, the right fit, and the right prices on ebaymotors.com. And let's ride. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. We are back here at Locked On Canadiens, and as it is Monday, we always do our 3-up and our 3-down segment for our Monday show, where we talk about the risers and the fallers within the Canadiens organization. And before we get into the down spot here, Laura, I think the Connor Bedard ship has unfortunately sailed for the Montreal Canadiens. I am looking at Tankathon right now, and the bottom 3 teams in the league, Chicago, Gross, Columbus, and Anaheim, have lost 8, 4, and 7 games in a row. The Canadiens have lost 3 games in a row. San Jose, sorry, JD, I'm so sorry, have won 3 in a row for some reason here. And Montreal now sits at 66 points. 12 points behind the number 1 overall spot in Chicago right now. I don't think they're going to get Bedard, and they sit just 1 point ahead of Arizona, who has 67 points, who has lost 7 straight games here. I got to say, it stings a little bit, but I think the Bedard dream has sailed on this. They were never going to be bad enough to beat Chicago or Columbus or Anaheim. But now we turn our attention to 5th and 6th overall, where there's a lot more options. I don't know if this is really a down. I'm just kind of sad because unless they win the lottery, which would be awesome, which I think they can only move up to 2nd overall. They can't get the 1st overall pick at this point. I could be wrong, unless if someone wants to correct me, please do.
See, I thought they were able to.
I'm
thought
not
they were
100%.
able to move up because it's a maximum of 4 spots.
I thought it was 3. I don't know. Someone in the comments, please tell me directly what it is, because it says they have an 8.5% chance at 1st overall, which, I mean, they can either win the 1st overall. I think they can only move up so many spots. The rule on this changed, and I cannot remember what it is off the top of my head. But at the same time, it's kind of sad that I'm like, we went through so much. Oh, and David Savard is out for the rest of the season with a knee injury because, of course, we just had to throw one more season-ending injury in there. It's the pain that never ends this season. The Leafs have the passion that unites them all, and the Canadiens have the medical staff that unites them all, apparently, at this point. So
the medical staff that unites everybody in lack of confidence in them. I think for me, here's the thing though, like early on when they were winning some games, I think we kind of knew that it wouldn't last, right? Like there were points of the season where they were like 17th in the rankings, and we knew it wasn't going to last, and we knew it was going to go down to like 25th, 26th overall, which is where we think, they were going to end. So I think Habs fans for the most part have been making peace with that. It still sucks. Like, it still sucks that you're not going to get Connor Bedard, and don't get me wrong. But I think something that people just like simply forget all the time whenever we're having these conversations is that you cannot convince hockey coaches and athletes to lose on purpose. You simply cannot. The only thing you can do is remove talent in order for them to have lack of talent. And the Canadiens did that. Their medical staff tried really hard to do that, and it still didn't work. Do you know why? Because Chicago is more of a black hole. And I think, the Columbus Blue Jackets, like they injury lucked their way into last place or almost last place, kind of like how the Canadiens did last year. Like they just had so many bad injuries and so many things going wrong. Everything was just kind of like a circus. So for me, I've generally been making peace with it. And I know like every once in a while, somebody in the comments or on Twitter or whatever, like has a rage about it. And I was like, this has kind of been the case since November. Like at this point, we're April. And like, we just have to make peace with it. And we just have to we have to hope and have faith that the scouting staff and Jeff Gorton and Kent Hughes make the right decision for this team at 5th overall or 6th overall or whatever it is.
And that's the thing is I look at the records right here. The teams in front of them, 15 overtime losses, 10 overtime losses. The Canadiens have only lost in overtime 6 times. Like they have 30 wins, 41 regulation losses, which is fourth worst. But San Jose just lost a lot more outside of regulation. It's a weird situation here in that the Canadiens were never as bad as last year and their record showed. This year they've been injured to hell and back playing with rookies. And yeah, the team isn't great. This was not a playoff team, mind you, but I don't think this is a team that when things are clicking is a bottom 5 team in the NHL. But this comes with the rebuild. There's a lot of moving pieces here. And I guess to move on to the final down segment here, we'll talk a little about this Carolina game. No one showed up for the last 2 games that the Canadiens have played, except for the goaltenders trying the best they can. And I think that kind of sucks. Like, Jake Allen and Samuel Montembeault have been trying their absolute best in that. Samuel Montembeault made 47 saves against Carolina. The Canadiens
shot
had
differential
14.
was historic, right?
It was 50-14.
It's never been this bad in
never
franchise
been
history.
that bad. Yeah, and like, Carolina's a good team, and Florida's a good team. They played these teams hard in February and January and everything. I remember, because it was a lot of 1-2 goal games. And yeah, it was only 3-0, but that's because Samuel Montembeault was out of his mind. I am glad that we're seeing Monty get his flowers, because he deserves them for how good he's been this year, all things considered. But guys, we talk about having a little bit of pride. I don't know if it's just the team is running out of some of that, Ted Lasso steam here a little bit. But guys, save your goalie, for the love of God. Like, see what the Canadiens have left on their schedule. They have Boston and Toronto, Detroit, Washington, and the Islanders. And I'm highlighting that Capitals game for one reason. They beat you 9-2, where Jake Allen got left in there for all 9 goals on the mom's trip. Be better. I'm not saying you got to win, just be better. Have some pride down the stretch for these final 5 games here. Season's almost over, and then everyone can go on vacation or to the hospital or wherever it is they need to go at this point. Have a little pride down the stretch. Laura, do you have anything left to add in the down segment before we move on?
No, I really just wanted to talk about that shot differential that was alarming last night. Like, and the thing is, like, you're watching the game, right? And it's like, that they're playing a good team. They're the Montreal Canadiens. You're expecting this. And then when you look at the final total, it was mind-numbing. And so I would like better from the Canadiens, obviously, next year. We've only got, 5 games left? 6 games left? 5 games left. I want a lot better from the Canadiens this year. I think we can, kind of close the door on tanking even next year, because they're not going to be as bad as this. And they're going to play a lot of youngsters and all of that. I want this team to have a defensive identity, and I want them to figure out their future of their goaltending.
And in this, we already talked, we gave Monty his props and his flowers for this. We have more ups coming this week, and we're going to get into those in our final segment. But next, our next partner is a product that I use literally every morning, because it helps give me the energy I need to start my day, and that is Athletic Greens. And with Athletic Greens, you're absorbing 75 high-quality vitamins, minerals, whole food source superfoods, probiotics, and adaptogens to help start your day right. And their blend of ingredients help support your gut health, your nervous system, your immune system, and give you energy, focus, and help with recovery throughout the day. And it's lifestyle friendly. So if you are vegan, dairy-free, or gluten-free, Athletic Greens is there for you. And it costs less than $3 a day. So much cheaper than that cup of coffee first thing in the morning. So folks, it is now time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. You don't need a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it even easier, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Again, that's athleticgreens.com/NHL network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. We are back here at Locked On Canadiens. It is Monday. That means it is 3 up and 3 down. We already kind of went over our down segment there. We talked about the team's historically bad shot differential, leaving Samuel Montembeault out to dry. We gave Samuel Montembeault his props in the last segment. In the up segment here, though, it's really hard in the past week, 2 weeks at this point, to bet against Rafael Harvey-Pinard in anything. A couple of big goals, more goals in Buffalo. Kid just scores goals all the damn time. Just keeps scoring goals. He was up to 7th in the rookie goal scoring race before he missed the game against the Hurricanes with an injury. What do you even say? Kid came in and everyone thought, okay, nice to see him get his chance here. We'll see what he does. He scored a goal in the COVID year's first NHL goal. And this year he's just been on fire. It's hard to not give him his props. He's been just so good for the Canadiens since he was called up.
And it's all well deserved too. Like all the props that he's getting. I saw recently he signed with a new agency. Can't use his former agency. Kid's gonna get paid, which is fine with me. I think he's proven himself to be very sustainable and durable, which is a concern that I have because every time people talk about, Brendan Gallagher and the Canadiens medical staff, who I think we all agree we don't have any faith in, he's doing the same things, but not in as risky a way, in my estimation. I think he's always ready to jump in on the play. I think he's become very, very adept at using his own skills, like understanding his own value, which I think is so important. Sometimes there are hockey players that have so many skills, but their brain is not able to translate them, right? So they either try too hard and do things that they're not capable of, or they don't try hard enough and they aren't able to succeed. And I feel like Rafael Harvey-Pinard has that perfect amount of self-awareness, which I think it's not as common as we think. I'm thinking of, people with skills that aren't able to 100% control their own game, not control their own game, understand how to control themselves or understand their own strengths and weaknesses. Like, I think that, for example, Mike Hoffman is a great example of that, where there are skills there, but their own command and their own self-awareness might get in the way of their play a lot. I think even, we love Josh Anderson, but Josh Anderson too has a little bit of a lack of that. So I think with Rafael Harvey-Pinard, like, we do compare him a lot to Brendan Gallagher, which I understand why. I understand exactly why people think that, but I think he's carving out his own path, and I think his ability to hone his own skills to the best of his own ability with that self-awareness is the key here, is the key to his success this season.
And speaking of these young guys playing for the Rocket and moving up, I can't ignore either of these two anymore because they are keeping the Rocket in the thick of the hunt for the final playoff spot there. Emil Heineman and Pierrick Dubé, two very different players, and Pierrick Dubé was signed to an AHL contract, started the season in the ECHL with the Lions, and Emil Heineman was obviously part of that Tyler Toffoli trade, and people have been waiting and waiting and waiting for him to make his appearance in North America. In 6 games, Emil Heineman has 6 goals. He probably should have 7. They counted one last night as a deflection. He's doing everything you can ask of a guy who is known as an offensive weapon. His shot is absolutely ridiculously hard. As Patrick Bexell put it on the show, he doesn't shoot around people. He shoots through people. Rocket came away with a 6-4 win in Milwaukee last night. They're on a 4-game winning streak. 5 games left, and the biggest game of the season is on Friday against the Cleveland Monsters. If they can win that game, they're pretty well set up to grab that last playoff spot in the AHL North, which, considering how they started this year, would be nothing short of amazing. And Pierrick Dubé is someone that, when I was at the prospect tournament in Buffalo here at the start of the year, he was a guy who was all around the place. And he's not overly big. He's 5'9", 22 years old, played a couple of years in the ECHL. Now, he played with the Lions last year for 10 games and played in the QMJHLs with Quebec and Shawinigan. And he's come in and he's setting new career highs. 39 games, he has 30 points for the Rocket this year. 13 goals, 17 assists, plus 11 on the year. I don't know who found this, what part of the scouting staff found this guy, but give them a raise because he's just clicked with the Rocket. He's playing that middle 6 role, and all he does is score big goals and get big assists. He's just one of those role players that fits there. And at 22 years old, he's still got a little bit of growing to do. I'm not saying he's going to be an NHL player, but out of nowhere, without Harvey-Pinard, without Ylonen, without Belzile, without these other guys there, someone stepped up, and it was Pierrick Dubé so far this season. Him and Heineman definitely make my up list right now. It's really hard to not be really happy to see that kind of success for these players right now.
I agree. I have another up, which I think is probably yours as well. Sean Farrell, first goal.
Because in that game, I missed the Flyers game because I was covering a Rocket game at the time, I believe. No, I did get it. It was just a really weird, wonky goal. Sean Farrell gets his first goal. Of course, it was ugly as all sin, but he'll tell his kids in the future that he definitely went top corner because why not? He's one of those guys that I know it's the end of the season. The Canadiens are playing tough teams, and it's not like he's just shooting the lights out. He's not doing the Harvey-Pinard thing, but I'm noticing him more than I'm not, which is probably what you want to see out of a young forward making his debut there, and defaulting to the scouting staff, scouting people and the prospect people who've watched a lot more of him than I have. They're seeing a lot of his good habits coming out again. And that's honestly, the best that you can hope for if you're the Canadiens, because next year he's going to make this team next year. I'm going to be shocked if he doesn't, because he won't be in the AHL for long if that's the case, because Canadiens clearly saw something they liked. I can't wait to see what's next for Sean Farrell in a Canadiens uniform, honestly.
I absolutely agree. Like, he's somebody that I became hype about because of you. So I'm excited to see it. I think everybody else is. I think what's going to happen next year is going to be so interesting, because it feels like they have way too many forwards, and they have to figure out how they're going to fit together and who is expendable on the team.
Yeah, and I'm looking at their AHL contracts right now. I'm looking at guys who they might bring back. It's good. It's a good problem to have, is that you're giving yourselves options for this. With the games coming up this week, and I know I want to say I forgot who the Habs are playing next. They're playing the Red Wings on Tuesday, the Capitals on Thursday, the Leafs on Saturday, then the Islanders, and then the Bruins. There's plenty of opportunities for goals in here. Toronto's still playing for home ice advantage. The Capitals, I guess, are technically trying to play for a playoff spot. The Red Wings, I'm not really sure. The Islanders are playing for their playoff lives, and the Bruins aren't playing for anything. Plenty of opportunities there for some big goals for some players there, and I think Sean Farrell will be a big part of that. Laura, did you have anything to add before we wrap the show today?
No, absolutely not. I do apologize once again for not being there on Friday. So your mailbag is coming. So stay tuned for that.
So we will have the mailbag at some point this week. That might be tomorrow's recording before the game on Tuesday, since we don't have a Monday night game. We will, of course, let you know on that situation. And until next time, folks, please follow us on Twitter at @LO_Canadian. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube. Follow my co-host at The Active Stick, and follow myself at Scott Matla. And folks, we will see you all next time.